pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Alex, do you want to do roll call for us?
Here.
Here. Okay, we do have a quorum.
I didn't hear my name called.
Oh, he called it. She's there.
Sorry, I
she's-
didn't hear it. Thank you.
Okay, we need to get a motion to approve the agenda. There's no changes.
I'll make a motion to approve tonight's meeting agenda.
I can second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? And a motion to approve the minutes from April 7th.
I'll make a motion to approve the meeting minutes from April 7th, 2025.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Abstain? Motion carries. Okay, new business. We will read and consider signing the proclamation of Tree City, USA's Arbor Day on Friday, April 25th, 2025. Well, he's not even here, is he? When will they do that? Will they do the trees on Friday too? Okay. Okay. Okay, so the proclamation reads, whereas in 1872, the Nebraska Board of Agriculture established a special day to be set aside for the planting of trees. And whereas this holiday called Arbor Day was first observed with the planting of more than 1 million trees in Nebraska. And whereas Arbor Day is now observed throughout the nation and the world. And whereas trees can be a solution to combating climate change by reducing the erosion of our precious topsoil, by wind and water, cutting heat and cooling cost, moderating the temperature and cleaning the air, producing life-giving oxygen and providing habitat for wildlife. And whereas trees are a renewable resource giving us paper, wood for our homes, fuel for our fires, and countless other wood products. And whereas trees in our city increase property values, enhance the economic vitality of business areas, and beautify our community. And whereas trees, wherever they are planted, are a source of joy and spiritual renewal. Now, therefore, I, Tanya Davis, Fortville Town Council President, do hereby proclaim Friday, April 25th, 2025 as Arbor Day in the town of Fortville. And I urge all citizens to celebrate Arbor Day and to support efforts to protect our trees and woodlands. And further, I urge all citizens to plant trees to gladden the heart and promote the well-being of this and future generations. Dated this 21st day of April 2025.
Oh.
And we will have, Heath, do you want to tell everybody when the trees will be here? I'm sorry, giving that to you and you don't want it, do you?
Heath Booth, the Parks Manager for the record. I am going to pick up the trees on Tuesday, actually tomorrow. And we will be giving away trees Friday from 9 a.m. until they're gone. I believe Andy has it posted on all our social media accounts and whatnot. So yeah, anybody wants to come out and get trees.
Do we know what kind of trees?
Yeah, it was posted. I knew you were going to ask me that.
Sorry.
Prepared walking in late. It's 2 coniferous trees. Those seem to go really well. It's a white pine and eastern red cedar. And then we have, forgive me, I don't remember what the last, it's a deciduous tree, a smaller one. We did not have it. They did not have any smaller bushes. And those, the last few years, we've noticed that the smaller bush trees just don't seem to do as well. Originally, I think we had gotten them to kind of help out maybe some people that were limited on space. They just don't seem to go as well. So Yeah, we've got 300 total. So
300
as soon as they're
trees.
gone-
Come get your free tree.
Yep.
I looked it up. There are Norway spruce, northern white cedar, and black cherry.
Black cherry.
Black cherry.
100 of each.
Thank
Nice.
you, Alex.
Thanks. Thanks, Heath.
Yep.
Next, I'm going to be appointing a citizen member, a new member for the planning commission to fill a vacant seat by Mike Siebert, and that person is going to be Tracy Bills. And next up, we will review the annual tax abatement compliance forms of the CF ones.
All
You're
right.
going to do that for us?
Sure. I'll give you an overview. So it looks more complicated than it
Yeah,
really
it
is,
always
just
does.
because we've got the backup information. So we'll run through each of these, give you a quick overview. I think in most cases, we should have a rep from the company that can speak in more detail if you need that. But I'll just run through these quickly through each of them. The first one we'll look at is 700 West Broadway. So this was related to a tax abatement that was adopted by council last year, excuse me, related to their expansion at Secured Tech Solutions. So once the expansion comes online, that's what's being abated over the 10-year period. And so I should take one quick step back, is the function of these CF1s is a state mandated requirement anytime tax abatements are issued by a local municipality. So it's normal procedure. We've been doing this for a number of years. And think of it as a kind of a benchmark as to where they're at in the process of their project and what they said they were going to do in the onset of the abatement, and how they're either on track or on occasion not on track to fulfill those goals that they set out for. So, so for this first one, the Secured Tech Solutions, the project is not yet finished. It's still under construction, although they're still required under the law to file one of these. But it won't go into effect until 2026, pay 2027. So then moving on to the second one. This one is related to a tax abatement that was adopted in 2022, and it's for Debo Properties. It's that light industrial park off of West 1000 North. And so there's two components to this. There's two buildings, and so each has their own. And the numbers are spelled out in the CF1. So there's two forms for that. And then for Taxman, this was originally went into effect in 2016. So we're starting to near the end of it. And the numbers are spelled out there. And then for the last one is Commerce Industries or Thursday Pools. There have been 3 different tax abatements over the years. There was the last one being in 2022. Then there was one in 18, and the original one was in 2014. And so I believe there's a total of 1, 2, 3, 4. I think there's 4, 5. There's a total of 5 forms that you'll need to sign. The abatement is, the reason there's so many forms is because they were separate abatements, and also the real estate was abated, the real property, as was the personal property as part of the business. So I'd say with that, if you have any specific questions on any of the projects, we're willing to address those. And again, most, if not all of the projects here tonight. Thank you.
Can we just approve them all at the same time, or you want to do them
Sure.
individually?
I'd say if you're inclined to approve all of them, you could do it in one foul swoop.
How do you want to do it, Ryan? Probably should list each name, I guess, in the motion, Alex.
Yeah, that'd be fine. And then, you know, motion to find that the CF ones as presented are satisfying, are meeting the requirements. And if you want to do it all at once, like Adam said, that's fine. If the motion doesn't pass, then we can break them up and do them one at a time until we get to the one that was the reason for it not to pass en masse.
So is it just, would it just be like Commerce Industries, Taxman,
As the written, I would say
Um,
here.
Thursday, well, that's Commerce Industries.
Yeah,
isn't it?
yeah.
Like, do I have to read?
Debo.
Do I have to do each individual, each individual Thursday pools, or just say in the motion that it's all of them?
Yeah, each that was presented.
Excuse me.
Anybody have any questions?
I think everything looks okay.
I'll make a motion to approve the CF ones for Core 4 Holdings, Debo Properties LLC, Taxman Properties LLC, Mud Puddle Holdings, Debo Properties LLC, Commerce Industries LLC, Thursday Pools.
Yep.
Second.
Oh, I will second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay. That was easy. Thanks for coming, Bill. It's good to see you. Do we need to sign all these, or they're not marked here?
Yes, I think just you as the president are authorized to sign it. So
I can do that later.
if you want to do it later.
Yeah.
Yeah, and be sure to check the box that says is in substantial compliance.
Yeah, I saw that. Okay, old business. Council will consider approving the first reading of an ordinance for sidewalk maintenance. And I think, Joe, you want to lead us through this, or Alex?
You want? Sure. So we've had discussion about this at the last meeting, as you recall, and made some changes pursuant to that conversation. You have in your packet both a clean copy and red line copies. Broke out so there are two sections, one sidewalk maintenance and just dealing with sidewalks generally, and then there's the section B, which is snow removal. The majority of the changes were under the general maintenance. One important piece is that in subsection 3, so it would be A3, which is new, and it reads, and for the public or anyone listening, the town shall adopt policies and procedures for owners of premises to notify the town of any necessary repairs or conditions of any cement, asphalt, concrete walks, sidewalks, so the town can assess the responsibility for the repairs or conditions. For example, public versus private sidewalk, cause of the condition, and address the same. And then the next subsection A4, also new, the town shall not be responsible for any cement, asphalt, concrete walks or sidewalks located on private property or that is not owned by the town. So that's just, there were some comments about clarifying that if this is a subdivision, that the sidewalks aren't dedicated over to the town and it's, controlled privately, that's not
governed by this ordinance, that we're just talking about public sidewalks. The snow removal, I think that there may be some conversation still tonight about where the snow removal list would be and where that would extend, but I did make the change. It's not in the version that's in front of you, but I sent out an updated version that did also added the north side of Broadway from West, help me out, Joe.
West Church.
West Church Street
To-
to State Road 13.
Yeah.
Garden
Street.
okay.
I'm sorry, Church. That was Main Street.
I also added down in the penalty, there was a lot of discussion about wanting to make sure that from an enforcement perspective, that folks got a chance to get the heads up. And so the first notice is a warning, and that's specifically spelled out there. I know that Chief Bratton commented that he instructs his officers that for things like this to try to go about it with, giving people the heads up and a warning first before you move on to a penalty. But now that's expressly in the penalty schedule, that first strike's a warning. Other than that, Joe, and I'll let Joe bring it up, but before the meeting, he and I discussed about possibly in A1, which now reads that it'll be the duty of all owners of premises within the limits of the town to keep all cement, asphalt, et cetera, in good shape, to possibly consider changing that to keep, to make the requirement that they notify the town of any repairs that are needed on sidewalk, cement, asphalt, and so forth. And I agree with Joe for what it's worth, that I think that's something the town council should consider, because I think it clarifies one of the issues that's been a piece of discussion. It's like, well, as a homeowner, am I supposed to go out there and repair the sidewalk? So if you made that change, instead of just saying, hey, it's the homeowner's responsibility to keep it, to the initial responsibility is for the homeowner to notify the town. Then under the policies that would be created under A3, Joe and his team could go through the process of assessing the damage. Is it something that needs to be addressed immediately? What caused it? Is this just a tree or normal freeze-thaw cycles, or is somebody driving a triaxle across it to build a new, and just determine whose responsibility it is to actually fix and repair the sidewalk or what have you. So another possible change to consider, but with that. Then again, this came about because of a recommendation from the town's insurance carrier, and just kind of clarifying for these potential liability points out there, damaged sidewalks and streets and whatnot, to have a formal way that the town is trying to address it and make sure that sidewalks are maintained in a safe manner.
And that would be adding to the A1. Is that where that goes? Or
Correct.
Yeah.
So instead of saying right there at the end of the first line, where it reads, the town to keep all cement, to strike keep and say to notify the town of any damage to.
A reasonable amount of time?
But-
I mean, is there a time frame that?
Yeah, and I think that would be under the policies. I think that I would suggest including that time period under the policies, within, 5 or 10 days or whatnot. And then in those policies, I think it would be important also to set some sort of time frame that the town would go out and take a look as well. But the policies can come after. We can let Joe and his team work on those.
Well, I definitely like that change. I like that wording better.
But wasn't the original intent of the original paragraph back when it was called parkways, wasn't the original intent for it to be for the property owner to keep the sidewalks clean swept, rather than ensure the physical repair and maintenance of them? I mean, I
wasn't-
read that original paragraph pretty carefully, and it sounded like the original paragraph only meant keep your portion of the sidewalk like free of obstructions and clean swept, basically, so that it's tidy.
I mean, Joe might be able to add more to it. If you'll recall, that language in the original ordinance came verbatim from the insurance company based on policies that they suggest or language that they suggest, their.
No,
clients have.
I'm not talking about the language that came from the insurance company. I'm talking about our original language that was there before we started doing any of this a couple meetings ago.
She's talking about the
Oh, the current
parkway
current
maintenance.
ordinance on
The parkway maintenance, and then that got edited along with the rest of it to say sidewalk maintenance. But originally, that paragraph said, keep whatever's in front of your house essentially tidy. I don't have the exact language in front of me right now, but it said keep it all basically tidy, whether it's a sidewalk or whether it's a patch of dirt or grass or whatever it is, just keep it tidy. That, I
Well,
believe, was the original intent. And then at the last meeting where we were having our second reading before we tabled this, which pushed it back to a first reading, what we were talking about was, I remember I said, oh, did that paragraph get deleted? And I remember Joe or somebody else said, oh, no, that paragraph will still be there. And I believe, and I was just wondering here, is that the paragraph Alex was talking about?
No, the Parkway ordinance is not being affected by this change. That is separate and apart from what you're considering on the sidewalk maintenance. It would fall under the same title under the town's code of ordinances, but the requirements to keep your parkway, which is that grass or dirt or what have you, but that area of that strip of land between the right of way and the sidewalk maintained, that remains. That language is not being affected by this ordinance.
But the
It's
title
just-
was changed to sidewalk, so it is being affected. It's being drawn into this whole update.
No, that was
Added
just,
to it.
I started from the parkway. If you look at the numbers, the sections of the code that would be created here, these are new sections under Title 9 to add these.
Okay, so we're not going to have any more 94.61 parkway maintenance?
Yes.
No, 94.61 remains. It would still be part of it. We're not abolishing 94.61.
Okay. So the purpose of that is just to keep whatever you have tidy, right? Okay.
Right. If you look at section 1 of the ordinance, it's the Title 9, Chapter 94 of the code shall be amended to include the following sections. So the ordinance would only add these additional 94.70, which is the definitions, 7.1, which is the sidewalk maintenance and snow removal. And then the section 2 updates the penalty schedule to have these two violations of these new sections, 94.71A and 71B.
I had a question about that unless Joe had something to say about it first.
No, I'm good. Go ahead.
So Alex, what you're saying just there is that the new language that you're recommending would cause the town to be able to decide whose responsibility it is to fix a sidewalk based on what the town thinks caused the damage?
Correct. Yeah, the town would adopt policies or develop policies for how to notify the town of when there's an issue, what happens from there, going out and assessing whether, the sidewalk is buckled or if there's an issue just because of regular age and wear and tear or trees, or if it's a case where someone is driving heavy machinery across the sidewalk and causing the issue, or a dumpster or something like that that can cause problems that wouldn't otherwise exist except for the action of the property owner. In that case, the town could make an assessment that this is damage that was caused by the property owner, and I would say that would be on the property owner to take care of that.
But how wouldn't this result in just a conflict between the town and the property owner? Like every time, how would this not be gamed so that the town always says, oh, it must be your fault? What are the rules?
Well, I think there needs to be some trust in the people that work for the town that they're going to make an honest assessment of that and document it. And if someone wants to challenge the decision of either Joe or whomever for the town is making that decision, there's due process for them to go through that. But I think you've got to start from a position that the town employees that you as a councilwoman and the other 4 council members appoint and have working for you are going to do an honest job and make a fair assessment.
I've heard advice from everybody sitting up there that the town should not accept responsibility for things. So why would it be any different in this case?
I'm not sure what you're talking about.
don't
I
know.
certainly haven't given you advice.
We haven't said that.
Alex has said that and Joe has said that. So I'm asking here, how can a property owner enter into an
I've not
agreement
said
like that?
the town should never accept responsibility for anything.
Nor did I.
I haven't, nor would I.
You also have to rely on the property owners to step forward too and say, for example, I have a neighbor that has a corner that's, they trash brand new ADA ramp and there. I watched the trucks do it, but it's not his fault. So if I report that and say there's a truck that's been driving over that, that takes the responsibility away from the property owner. But in my case where I built a house and watched the triaxle drive over the sidewalk and bust it up, I accept the responsibility for that and I fixed it, never asked. So
And
you have
property owners can could choose to fix something. But I'm just saying, if a property owner contacts the town and says, hey, look, I just bought this house, whatever, or I just noticed this thing or whatever is the case, I just chose to report this thing that happened. How is the property owner assured that they're going to have a fair assessment of it, especially when any number of things could cause the town to not want to fix it, including just we don't have any money to fix it. Where's the money going to come from to fix it? We've already discussed by email recently that we're not keeping up with the sidewalk repairs as it is with the budget that we have. So if everybody, I'm just wondering because what's going to happen is that if we pass this ordinance, then every homeowner in town is going to immediately fill out that online form. And anybody who has any little crack in their sidewalk, I mean, let's just face it. And to Tanya's point, you have to either trust that homeowners would be reasonable, or alternatively, you have to just anticipate what they're going to do. And I would think every logical homeowner would immediately click the button and say, hey, look, come assess my sidewalk. There's a little bit of a little trip hazard there. What's going to happen? And
Well,
then
I think if that happened, Joe is great about responding to people that call and have things like that happen. And it's great that he'd go and make connections with that person and have a conversation. And he can assess whether or not it's dangerous or not. He knows what a dangerous sidewalk is, and he puts it on the list and it gets taken care of, just like it always has in all the years past where we haven't had any issues. I don't think we have people calling, complaining about any of this. I think you're making this a much larger issue than what it is. And it has worked in the past, the way it is working.
well, I think that's because people just assume that the town's going to eventually get around to it. But
And they do.
Fritz came forward with his number that he independently audited the spreadsheet and feels that there's 7,000 linear feet of sidewalk that have yet to be repaired at any given time. And we haven't really gotten down to the bottom of that. How much sidewalk goes unrepaired at any given time? Fritz has a different number than Joe
A
has.
lot of sidewalks go unrepaired all the time. It's the way things go. What is unrepaired at your personal property?
I'm not
we all.
I'm not talking about my personal property.
I'm just saying, our town, our community is like our homes. We have tons of to-do lists and we have to manage those in priority. Joe doesn't ignore any request. He goes out and they get to it when they can.
But if they statistically can't get to it for 3 more years, say, and then if somebody trips and sues in the meantime, who's responsible for that?
Well, if I could add, I know you were talking about Fritz's numbers, and he pulled the numbers off of my spreadsheet where they're calculated about 7,000 feet of sidewalk that could stand to be replaced. Those are not all dangerous, hazardous trip hazards or anything like that. It could have been an area where the surface is pitted up and just doesn't look real good, or maybe it's too low, but it's not a hazard. So all 7,000 feet is not considered a hazard. So if we find out, if somebody says, I got a trip hazard, we go out and a tree root has heaved it up, which that can happen within months. I mean, we could have looked through it 6 months ago when it was okay, but then now it's, wow, it's really heaved up. We address it. We either block it off, grind it down, remove it, or replace it. So anything that's brought to our attention like that, we try to take care of.
Yeah, but it's understandable if you can't take care of it immediately. But the questions come to my mind if a homeowner reaches out to you, and if you either say this looks like your responsibility, or oh, we'll get to it when we can, and if when we can turns out to be a long time later, and if somebody trips on it in the meantime and sues, whose responsibility is it? If you sign up, if you agree and say, oh, we'll fix it when we can, does that mean the responsibility is on the town if somebody trips and sues? For however long until you can
That would
get.
be honest on us, yes.
I would think if they can't repair it, they could put cones, they could put a sign, they could close it off. I mean,
They have.
lots of things could be done if a repair can't get to that would be perfectly fine, I would think, in the meantime. I mean, I don't think that sounds very hard.
Can a property owner just rip out their sidewalk if they're told that they would have to repair it and it's their responsibility? Can they just rip it out instead?
No,
Why not?
it's public property. That's why.
It's owned by the town, but the homeowner is told that they're financially responsible to fix it. In that
No,
case.
they notify the town.
I think,
Did you miss the first part
No.
of what we're saying is we're changing it to notify the town is what it's gonna read.
No, what Alex said at the beginning was that the homeowner notifies the town and Joe decides whether it's the town's responsibility or the homeowner's responsibility.
Well, who
And
else is gonna decide?
What's that?
Who else would decide that?
I'm not suggesting somebody else should decide, but it's interesting that the town, just any part of the town would have the latitude, would be in charge of deciding.
I don't understand who else would decide. I mean,
I'm not
It's either, so to your point, Vanessa, I mean,
I'm confused.
it's either the town makes that assessment as it should, since that's one of the roles of local government, or perhaps you're suggesting that the property owner should be able to, one, notify, and two, make the determination that it's the town's responsibility or not theirs.
I don't
But what
see why
ends
in
up
some
happening is the
cases.
town makes the decision, since it's the town's ordinance and duty to provide safe walkways. If the property owner disagrees with the town's assessment, there's due process to go through an appeal to, see whether the next board, probably be the council, and then if the council upholds the decision that it was the property owner's responsibility and they want to appeal that, they can appeal to the trial court.
But it
I mean,
sounds like
Process
from your
with-
it sounds like from your description at the beginning, Alex, that if the cause of the damage was something that can be clearly pointed to as incidental, say a truck rolled over it, or I don't remember what the other examples were, but if a truck rolled over your curb, the town will fix it because that clearly wasn't your responsibility. But in all other cases, it's the homeowner's responsibility. That's what it sounds like.
I think it was actually the opposite. I think if it's an incidental, if it's just freeze thaw, tree roots, wear and tear, age, those are things that aren't caused by the property owner. But if you have a moving van come in, or you're driving your Ford F-350 across it to park in the side yard and the property owner caused the damage, I would not be surprised to see Joe saying this is something that wasn't normal wear and tear and what you would expect from a sidewalk, regular maintenance, but this was caused by the property owner. Therefore, it would be the property's owner's responsibility to take care of it.
Okay, so you're saying if it was your own moving truck, or if your kid took a jackhammer to the sidewalk and it's clearly your fault, then you have to fix it. And I don't know why anybody, and I can see what Tanya said. I don't see why anybody would honestly think that they could report something like that and think that they're gonna get away with it and say, some other kid took a jackhammer on my sidewalk, you have to fix it. But in all other cases, it sounds like, okay, if there's just general wear and tear, Joe will sign up to fix it. We'll sign up for the town to fix it. But then you just get on a list that could be however long, it could be years. And then if somebody trips and falls in the meantime and sues, who's responsible then if the homeowner has reported it, the town has accepted it? That's the town?
Yes.
The answer, you're asking for legal conclusions on a hypothetical lawsuit. those things, those decisions and the answer to your question would come out in litigation. And it depends. The answer is it depends. It depends on what actions were taken by the town to address, if it was the town's responsibility to do it, to address the hazard. Whether it was the town's responsibility to pay for it or not. That's where this came from, if you'll recall, that having something that the insurance company would like the town to have official policies to go out and address these trip hazards or other hazards around the town. So that if once somebody does get hurt or there is a claim due to a sidewalk or a street or something that should be a curb that should be repaired, the town can point to a record and a process that will hopefully was followed to mitigate the danger. Also, I mean, your hypothetical, I mean, I can come up with hypotheticals all day long. Was the person drunk and it was their own fault? Or were they just walking around looking at their telephone and should have seen something, but didn't, should have seen the orange cone and the caution tape that Joe's team put out and they tripped? Well, in that case, I'm not so sure the town's going to have much liability, but that's what happens in courts. So there's no stock answer to your question other than it depends. It depends on the facts of the situation.
I'm just asking these questions because I spoke with our insurance agent who said that the intent of the new language they gave us was to shift responsibility, legal and financial, from the town to the property owner. And so that's a pretty heavy statement. And so I'm trying to understand if that's what we're signing up for, or if the modified version of the language departs from that, in what way.
I can't speak for the insurance agent, but I would say, I would take that farther to say it's to shift liability away from the town when possible. And this ordinance and having a policy to go out and address trip hazards gives the town the means to go, and something that's formal that we can point to, both in ordinance and in policy, the way that this current draft is set up, to give the town the best chance to avoid liability by
And
taking
so-
action. And so that inherently, if the town's avoiding liability, then that's going to put the responsibility on someone else, whether it's the homeowner or, in your example, the neighbor kid with the jackhammer. But it's not the town that would be responsible for those situations if the town is following its own policies and its ordinance.
But in the case where, because I think the vast majority of all of this would be, a lot of people's sidewalks are naturally kind of heaved up. A lot of people are going to immediately hit the button as soon as we build one into our website to, to report on your own sidewalk. And then what's going to happen is there's going to be a bunch of sidewalk portions that are going to be added to the spreadsheet or kind of flagged on the spreadsheet. And it's going to take however long it takes to get to them. And then in the meantime, if somebody falls down and sues, it sounds like in that case, the insurance company would look on that more favorably because we had a process in place. Is that it? Is that the end goal?
If we can show that we've got a process and we're following it and we're making improvements and repairs as we go, yes, that does help our case substantially.
But don't you already have a system for that? I mean, isn't that what your spreadsheet is anyway?
Yes, but that's not the way the ordinance reads. What you were saying earlier about what the insurance guy said he wanted to do as far as putting the responsibility and the cost and everything onto the property owner, that is not the way this ordinance reads. So it's not doing that.
Right. And I mean, the original language sounded like that. And so now what we're saying, and at the first reading, Joe, you were saying maybe the responsibility means that the homeowner contacts the town. But at the end of the day, I just want to make sure that I understand what we're actually agreeing to, because it sounded like the property owner has to pay to repair their own sidewalk. Now you're saying property owners can report their sidewalks to you and you will decide whether they have to pay for it or you will. And everybody here is saying that the examples of when a homeowner wouldn't have to do it is natural wear and tear. But if you detect that there is something specific to the homeowner that caused the sidewalk to be damaged, they'll have to pay for it. Like if their own moving truck rolled over it. I don't know how anybody would be able to figure that out. But
Well, I'll tell you that we have had a few of those instances, and the property owner has not argued the fact because it's very obvious. We had one house in Timber Ridge that built a swimming pool in the backyard and had large dump trucks driving around in the backyard. They busted the curb and the sidewalk. We stopped in and talked to them, and they said, yep, that was us. We're gonna fix
owned
it.
it too.
We hired somebody to take care of it.
But people cannot, like in the case where if somebody, I mean, I just come back to, I think people are going to want to rip out their sidewalk, but you're saying they're not allowed to do that because that's owned by the town?
Why would they want to rip out their sidewalk?
What if, okay, so what if,
No, I shouldn't ask. the
Sidewalks are
question.
required, are they not, Adam, under the subdivision control guidance? I mean, sidewalks, just like streets, just like we've got standards for street widths and curbs and so forth, sidewalks are required. So you can't just decide, I'm not going to have a sidewalk in front of your house. That'd be a violation of a different part of the zoning code.
I can't imagine anybody doing that anyway.
multiple people have suggested this?
I'm sure.
So what I'm saying is if somebody should come and say, look at the sidewalk damage, and if Joe should happen to say, that's on you, for whatever reason, I don't know, and like Alex is saying, I'm not trying to think of every possible example, but if Joe should say, well, that's on you, what happens if the person wants to rip out their sidewalk because they don't want to pay to fix it?
They rip it out, we send them a bill to fix it.
They don't get to just have no sidewalk.
Yeah.
That's not a decision that they can make.
Right.
The council wants to repeal the subdivision control guidelines that would allow part or all of the town of Fortville property owners to decide whether they want to have sidewalk or not. That's a different ordinance I can draft up for you. But as the code stands right now, sidewalks are required. They're required to be certain widths and put in a certain way. So if someone, to your hypothetical, decided they were just going to go out and rip out the sidewalk, I suspect a violation would be written, give them a time frame to put it back into town code. If they didn't, we'd proceed with the legal remedies to take that action and recover the fees from the property owner.
Okay, so the latest version of this language that is, since I spoke with our insurance agent on Thursday, reflects that the plan is for homeowners to report their known damaged portions of sidewalk, probably via our complaint form on our website or some other trackable way, some other official way, which I would also recommend would be auditable to the person who made the report. You should be able to retrieve your own record that you made a report, but the plan is that the homeowners will report if something is damaged. The process is that Joe will disposition what is the property owner's responsibility versus the town. And the only time that it would be the property owner's responsibility is if it's something that's quite obviously the property owner's own fault. And then otherwise, in all cases of wear and tear and things like that, Joe is expected to disposition it in terms of it's the town's responsibility. He'll either add it to his spreadsheet or flag it or something like that. And the expectation is that it would be fixed as soon as it can be done, with the understanding that not everything can be done all the time. Because we were just talking at the last meeting about how we can't keep up always with the budget that we have. But then if there's a lawsuit and the town had signed up to fix it, it will not be primarily the homeowner's legal responsibility. Contrary to what the insurance agent told me, it won't be the homeowner's responsibility if somebody falls, because the town signed up to fix it.
So there's a lot there.
Mhm.
A lot of what you just said is not.
We're signing up for quite a lot. That's why I'm asking all the questions.
I'll respond to if you let me.
Yeah.
A lot of what you're saying are items or issues that would be addressed in the policy that would be created pursuant to this issue. You know, the process of notifying the town, Joe's assessment or his teams and so forth. But you're right that the ordinance as presented contemplates developing policies to address those items. To the last part that you said, you're reaching a conclusion that the liability for the sidewalk or any claim is not going to be on the town or would be on the town or would go. That again depends on the facts of the situation. And so I would caution not reaching any sort of conclusion one way or the other. this policy or this ordinance and then the policies that would be developed are intended to provide a mechanism that would not only protect the town as a government entity from liability by having procedures to address hazards in sidewalks, but also protect the public by having a way that the town goes out and assesses and addresses hazards that exist in sidewalks in the public way. So it's a way for the town council and the town to perform its duties under the law to provide safe public ways. And then also for the town or town residents to notify the town to help participate in that.
How long would the town have to repair it? I think somebody else asked earlier.
That is something I would suggest that that's a Joe question, and I think would be part of the policy that would be developed. I'm not sure that, I don't know. That's
Most of the
not something
language,
you want the lawyer.
yeah, most of the
No, I'm
language.
not. I'm sorry, Alex. I wasn't asking specifically you, but I know that somebody else had asked that earlier. I just have a lot of questions about this and about how it would work. And if you're saying a lot of the rest of it will be sorted out in the policy, I don't know what or where the policy is or when we decide that. But if we decide this now, then we're writing a blank check to whatever goes in the policy. So I want to go over all of it now.
Yep.
So how long would the town have to repair it?
I think the question would be, how quickly does Joe respond to a situation? And that would be within 24 to 48 hours. And then depending on the situation, I mean, you can't get a contractor out sometimes if it's more than what the town can take care of. So it's a situational thing. You can't put a timeline, but I think the time to respond to a situation is a reasonable number to put into a policy.
And we'll remove the hazard as soon as reasonably possible.
Vanessa, I feel like we're just picking on something that just hasn't been an issue.
Yeah.
And I don't think we need to talk about these things right now. Personally, I'm getting a little frustrated. I trust our town. I trust the people that have been working here way longer than you even knew that this place existed. And they do a good job. And you're implying that they don't. You're implying that they lie, cheat, and steal from the people in this community, and they don't. They work very hard for us. So I feel like I'm defending them and would just ask you to, let's just simplify this and move on.
But if we're rejecting what the insurance agent said by modifying the language dramatically, there's still the conservation of mass and energy. If we're not doing what the insurance agent said by shifting the responsibility to the property owner, then what is the other impact? If we're kind of rejecting and moving away from what they wanted.
I will say that the insurance company does not write ordinances or policies. They leave that up to the town board and the attorney to word that the way that they see fit. They did have some examples from some other communities that they wanted us to consider and look at for some from language to create ours, but yeah.
But they wanted us to shift the
Insurance is not gonna
responsibility
be
to
the-
the property owner. So if we're not doing that, then what's going to be the other impact? Are they going to raise our premiums? Are they going to not insure us anymore? They wanted us to shift the responsibility to the property owners. That's what our insurance agent said. That was their intent. And I'm glad if we're not doing that, if we're not significantly changing from what we were doing, but then there's got to be some other impact somewhere if that's what they wanted us to do.
So this still creates an affirmative duty for the property owners to notify the town of hazards. And that is the important thing. That is more important. And I think that is actually, again, I don't know if the insurance fellas here, I don't think so, but that is the key element. The town can't do anything that it doesn't know about. There's a lot of street and sidewalk out there that Joe's very limited team goes out and does a pretty darn good job of keeping an eye on, but they can't see everything. So this creates an affirmative duty on the property owner to notify the town when there's an issue with the sidewalk. That's what's important. So if the property owner doesn't do that and someone trips and they didn't follow the ordinance and notify the town of an issue, whether they created it or it happened because of a root or whatever reason, they didn't fulfill or satisfy their affirmative duty under the ordinance to notify the town, that offsets some of the claim. You know, hey, property owner, why didn't you let us know? Here's, what happened. It may not absolve that, again, we're in hypotheticals. I'm not trying to but to be clear, this ordinance may not absolve the town of all liability, but it could apportion the liability. There could be part of the liability on the town, part of the liability on the property owner that doesn't notify and follow the ordinance, which that's helpful. At least you have, it spreads the responsibility, if not shifts it away from the town. And I think that is just having dealt with insurance carriers for a long time now. I think that's what they're after, is a way that the town would create a process to address these hazards and also create a responsibility on the part of the property owners to do their part by notifying the town.
Well, that's not what the insurance agent told me. So I'm kind of skeptically looking for loopholes here, wondering if we're actually signing up for something that's more aligned with what they wanted. But if we're not doing something more aligned with what they wanted, is there some other cost or issue elsewhere? But if you're saying we get to have our cake and eat it too, we get to do something that's more aligned with what we were already doing, just a little bit more formal. And if the insurance agency doesn't get what they want, which was to shift the responsibility to the property owner, and if they don't care, then fine. But
Yeah, I think this all started with, as Joe mentioned, proposed language from the insurance carrier to do something about this as part of risk management. And then I'm not sure, I haven't reviewed the tapes, but I suspect, because I say these types of things a lot, Fortville's not Carmel's, not Ingalls, isn't Pendleton. And so the council's job is to do what you're doing now, get to an ordinance and get to a place that works for the town of Fortville. And if that is, hey, property owner, these sidewalks are yours, it's 100% your responsibility, we don't care, that's up to you as council members to decide. Or if you're comfortable, hey, this is something that we want to have a formal process and notification and then have an assessment, that's up to you as well. But as Joe said, the insurance carrier is not the one writing the ordinances for the town. It's you as the town council that is 100% and completely in charge of the legislative process.
has the insurance agency reviewed the current version of the language?
I have no
I
idea.
don't think they need to.
They're the ones who decide whether our premium goes up or whether they're going to still insure us. What I was told was there are only 3 carriers that will even insure Fortville because of the liabilities of municipalities, including police stations and jails. And it sounded to me like we're kind of up between a rock and a hard place because we're so uninsurable. So it really sounded to me like more of an inelastic Newtonian collision than this. This sounds like there's a lot more squish factor than I thought, but that's fine. So if we get to have the cake and eat it too, that's fine. And I just wanted to know if the insurance agency reviewed this version of the language. I also would like to ask these same questions when it comes time to write the policy. I think Alex said, I think that's where a lot of the meat and potatoes is going to be. That's fine. If the insurance has reviewed it and they accept this and they're not going to increase the premiums and they're not going to, charge money back to the taxpayer some other way, okay.
For the insurance, I'll just jump in here. I don't want anyone up here or out there to get the impression that the town of Fortville is somehow limited in its insurance carriers. In my experience in dealing with a number of municipalities across the state for the last 20 plus years, they're just typically there's 2 or 3 or 4 insurance carriers that are in the market of insuring municipalities. It's a niche coverage. There is a lot of exposure and it's complicated. So that's the reason why there are only 2 or 3 carriers that would insure the town of Fortville. It's just, that's the supply that's out there. Not that it's something that the town of Fortville has done to get on, to limit the number of carriers that would consider insuring the town.
You want to make a motion to add this?
Can I,
May I speak on a
ask-
side note real quick?
Sure.
Go ahead, Fred.
Well,
Sorry.
the question is, 2024,
we have $50,000 in the budget to repair sidewalks. So since we didn't use it, are we gonna roll that over into 2025? So we have 100,000 to do repairs?
No, well. I kind of added up the numbers from our contract for the community crossing, the grant we got. So if the funds weren't used for the sidewalks, they do build up to where we can use them for road and sidewalk work. As you indicated earlier, if we go back to the price per square foot that I had 2 years ago, with $57,000, what we got now in there, we can only do about 700 feet of sidewalk. With the community crossings project that we're doing, we're getting 1,255 feet of sidewalk, $58,000 in ADA ramps, and
Yep. But what does that,
$150,000 worth of walks. and
what's that
ramps.
got to do? Well, that's good. I like that. But then we have these other sidewalks in town that don't get matching grants. That's what I thought we were gonna use that 50 for, to
If-
help catch up.
Once the paving's done, if there's funds left over, that's my intent to use leftover dollars there to do some additional sidewalks. I've already sent out some requests for bids for sidewalk work for this year. But seemed like prices have gone up quite a bit. in
Oh, I
the
know.
years.
I know it has.
But if, and I mean, I think my questions are related to Fritz's. If a bunch of new names get added to the list because people report their sidewalks, what are you going to do then? Do you just like recalculate everything and reprioritize all of it? Do the people who report their sidewalks, do they come in first place or last place?
Once we get report on the sidewalk, we'll go out and review, take a look at it. If it's a hazard, we'll remove the hazard. We'll make sure that nobody's gonna trip or fall on it. And then if we've got enough money, we'll replace all those. If not, it'll remain, either we could remove a section of walk and stone it, put some asphalt, do something temporary until we can get back to do a more permanent fix. So if we can afford to fix everything that's hazardous when they come in, by all means, we're gonna do it.
But statistically, we can't. I mean, isn't that what we talked about at the last meeting? Historically, statistically, that's not the case.
Those on the list are not all hazards, though. The list does not have just hazard sidewalks on them.
So how much of it is hazards?
They could have categories, hazard or disrepair, or they could have like a 3-tier system, 1, 2, 3. And we just concentrate on the 1s, the 2s, and the 3s. Because yeah, if you tried to replace everything that's been reported, it would be impossible. But
Yeah, I'm not
but
looking for free lunch for everybody. It's the things just simply can't get done faster than they're already getting done.
there again, it's when we put the notification in on Facebook and the website, they'll send in the notifications. And then we go from there. But I like how we're reworking this ordinance. We're making it better for the past 2 weeks. I like that we're putting in some notification. People have an opportunity to turn in their sidewalks and on either Facebook or the website.
No,
And-
No, not Facebook.
Okay, well, put it on our town's website, that's fine. But then they could click on and make a notification, and those become public records. So it's not that we're trying to, we just need to know how big of what we need to do and then grade it. That's all we have to do.
And it should be
Okay.
visible. The list should be visible to the public, the priority list. You should know where you are in line.
Well, they can request that if they want from the
Okay.
town. Right?
It's public record.
Yeah, it's public record. They can request that public record. But I like it that we're putting in notification. I don't feel comfortable voting on this tonight because I would like to see this added in and all that.
I would like to see that the insurance agency agreed with it and they won't increase our premiums since we're deviating from what they wanted. I agree with Fritz. I like
We
where it's.
don't like ordinances.
Voting for them.
Yeah,
Just make a motion or we just.
let's add the verb you guys had decided on to notify, yeah,
Yeah.
in that A1 section, notify any damage like within 5 days. Or whatever time you guys feels.
I think Pat still had a comment.
Go, Pat.
No, sorry. I did, as I mentioned last meeting, I'd speak with Lori about the snow removal. Lori and I talked for about a half hour about it. We're gonna try to sit down and have a meeting with the coalition of churches in Fortville, the local Boy Scout troops, and to make that list of volunteers for some of those things that we may need for that
Great.
sidewalk. So I just want to follow up with
Great.
everybody on that to let you know that that was taking place. We're moving forward with that. Okay, and then I'm out.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thanks, Pat.
I mean, is the only thing that we have a question about is the wording that we're adding.
Which I've made, I don't know if that's the only question, but I did mark up my copy to send out a revised version that A1, so 94.71 A1, the first line would read, now, it shall be the duty of all owners of premises within the limits of the town to notify the town of any damage to all cement, asphalt, concrete walks, sidewalks.
And if you don't put a time limit on there, there's gonna be a squabble over what is sufficient amount of time. So let's just pick a time.
So you want me to say to notify the town within,
I don't think there should be a number of days. I mean, to notify the town. Like, what if I'm on vacation for 2 weeks? I mean, and I don't see it.
So
I'm like, I mean, I don't,
then
reasonable amount of time is what it should say, I think,
All right.
in my opinion.
And that'll be
So-
arguable, I guess, if it ever goes to litigation, but that's fine.
Yeah,
That's fine.
That's what you do.
I don't have a problem with it.
yeah, I mean,
You can't put a time, like, you can't. put-
reasonable is a easy fix.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Send it in for.
Well, that'll be.
We-
in the-
That isn't a policy.
We'll get to that. This is the more important part, I think.
Well, how,
I think there's a policy on that, and then when they submit it, there would be a response after they submit it saying that someone will be in touch within whatever the
I'd
policy.
say give us a week to
Okay,
respond at least. Because most of the time, whenever I do something with the government, they at least, they could get back to me within a week.
We
Yeah, I
will reevaluate within 24 to 48 hours.
Yeah, I would think
We
we
won't
could
let
get
it
a
go.
response, yeah.
Yeah, I don't think it's so much about a
Doesn't
tight
it-
deadline to respond as a clear, transparent process by which the matter's dispositioned.
Okay.
So we're waiting to see the new mock-up now? Is that what we're doing?
Let's try it one more time.
You can make a motion,
I
then make
feel
the
more
changes for
comfortable.
the second one. Move it along.
Yeah, Joe's right. We've done that before too. If it's first reading, if someone wants to move to approve on first reading with the changes to A1, that's fine. If
That's
you-
what I'd like to do.
No,
I'd like to make-
no.
I'd like to make a
No,
motion.
I definitely would not. I would not. This
Well, I
is a
can make a
first
motion
reading,
now.
new language. Personally, no.
But I'm allowed to make a motion, so,
I make
I'll
a
make a
motion, I make a motion to not.
oh, that was good.
My God.
To not what?
I make a motion to hold on voting on this until the second reading per the usual rules.
Anybody second it? I'll make a motion to adopt the first reading with the changes. The owner has to notify the town within a reasonable amount of time.
I second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed?
Nay.
Nay.
Motion carries. Okay, next up, Joe?
Okay, I've got a couple of items here this evening. One is, Dave's been working with this 120 Water. It's a company that has been assisting us with the lead and copper inventory that we've had to do. And also, we're getting ready to do our lead and copper testing. So it will include them doing that testing. They build a public water service platform online so people can go and look at it. They also have direct communication with IDEM on our water quality and what they find there. So, and then the sampling, let's see. And I wish he would have explained this a little bit better, but for the most part, this is the only company that's doing this, and they work direct with IDEM. And the price that they gave us, let me see here, was $13,439.70. And he asked that you would consider allowing him to do that too. It helps make it a little bit more transparent as far as our water quality and trying to get the communication out to the people.
You want a motion to approve that?
If you choose to approve it.
Yeah. Well, I think transparency is good. Everybody's asking for it, so, yeah.
It's a 120 Water lead and copper sampling.
Did we get this in our paperwork on that?
Yeah, I can get it to you.
It's in here?
No, I will get it to you.
You
I'll
emailed
get
it
you a
to-
copy.
Okay.
I will get you a copy.
Okay.
No, he just brought it in today and we talked about it.
But why would we vote on something we haven't seen?
13,439.70.
For services?
Yes. And build a platform for the database.
What kind of platform? What do you mean?
Online, yeah. It's IT stuff. It's over my head.
Well, I build platforms, but I want to know which kind. Was there a proposal? Was there an RFQ? Like what is this that we're not looking
No, this was, Dave went out and tried to find companies that would do this. And it's the company we actually had to report all of our lead and service line inventory to. And then they are worked through back to IDEM. And this was the only company that he was able to find that did this.
So Dave was seeking additional services to help verify the numbers, basically?
To do the lead and copper testing, to make it more transparent, to communicate back to the citizens and report back to IDEM. There's a lot more bureaucracy going on anymore with all the IDEM stuff and the water quality, sewer, streets, everything. It seemed like years ago, we used to be able to, we got our paving money through our budget and we saved up and we paved and that was all there was. Now we have to go through NDOT. We have to apply for the money. We have to use it the way they say. We have to, there's a whole lot more hoops that we have to jump through now than what we ever did.
So this service would put more iron and other testing data on a website or our website, or put it someplace where
We should be able to have a link on our website where people can go and view it. It'll send them to that platform to where they can see it.
And how often would be these results? Like how frequent?
I believe they're required every 2 years. So as they do all these samples, they'll get the test in immediately and they'll be posted and the public will be notified. The citizens that had their water tested, they will be notified immediately.
But don't we already have annual water quality results on our website?
We're getting ready to send out our new one for this year. But as you recall, sometimes when you're waiting on IDEM, you don't always get those test results approved and get them back quick enough. And it could be 6 months or a year before we're sharing that information that what we had from our last test results. This is supposed to speed that up.
I don't think I understand. We have annual water test results on our website already, but you're saying that these people will test the water every 2 years and put it on another website?
The lead and copper test is due every 2 years. That's not part of our annual testing.
Okay, so we do not test for lead and copper currently.
Not on a weekly or daily basis that I know of. Now, Dave may correct me, but anything that we're required to do and send in to IDEM and everything is every 2 years. And that's what we've been following. And
So
I
they're-
believe since we've got more customers, that demands more samples.
So they're going to do some other type of testing that we don't already do
Correct.
and put it on a website. They're going to do it every 2 years.
Yeah, if we choose to have them do it again in 2 years. If we want to sign up with them to do it again, then yeah, they'll do it. Or, we may have another competitor by that time that'll do it.
But we're paying $17,000 a year for them to run a test every 2 years?
It's 13,000.
Okay, well, I don't know. It sounds weird. I was looking for confirmation that it sounded good, but I don't know. It sounds weird.
I mean, it sounds like to me it's more transparency, and I think that's what you've been asking for, right? More results that are viewable by the public.
To do a test every 2 years? I don't know. Two years doesn't sound very impressive, honestly. We have annual results, and what people want is more often than annual. So if it were more often than that, I would be excited. If it's every 2 years, I don't know. That
We're
just
required,
sound very.
we're required to do it by IDEM every 2 years. So we have to do it regardless.
This isn't doing it every 2 years, is it?
This is just for the one time and building the platform and everything. And in 2 years, if we decide to continue with them, we can, or we can go a different route.
They could just upload a PDF to our website where we put our other test results. You don't need a platform for that. I think it sounds weird. Sorry.
Okay. Somebody make a motion.
I'll make a motion to approve the 120 water, lead and copper sample, $13,479.70. Looks like we
Okay,
need more
second.
information.
And I'll
Everybody send everybody a copy.
yeah, I'll see if I can get Dave here at the next meeting. Maybe he can explain a little better than we can. Okay, the next.
Are we gonna vote on it or?
No, nobody
We're not
seconded
going
it.
to, we're going to get
Okay.
more information.
All right, thank you.
The last thing I've got here is, it's the last pay app for Reynolds for the water treatment plant. We've been holding this since last September because there was issues that we were working with them and trying to get those issues resolved. Now that they've figured out that the filter media and the aid that they've added has cleared everything up, we feel like they've done everything that was in their contract to do. We will be coming back to add that filter aid as a more permanent thing, because what they had done is set up a temporary just to see if it was going to take care of the problem. So it did, and they were able to identify it. So now that that's done, they've essentially completed their contract. There'll be some other things that we're going to look at doing with them as far as some maintenance items that like cleaning out the retention tank and stuff like that that we have to do every couple of years. So we'll continue to work on some of those projects. But the final pay app is $72,427.50. And I had sent this to the clerk earlier, tried to get it in the pay apps this evening, and she'd already had them done. So I was just gonna ask if you'd approve that so that they could go ahead and write a check for it.
Is that called again?
It's final invoice.
Final invoice
Yep.
for the water treatment plant.
$72,427.50.
That's for getting the water treatment plant finished.
Yep.
I'll make a motion to approve the final invoice for the water treatment plant for Reynolds at $72,427.50.
I second.
All in favor?
Aye.
There you go, Joe.
Thank you. And the only other thing that I really got is, I'll be out the next couple of days in a conference, continue my, continued credits, my contact hours for my water certification. And there'll be 1, 2, 4 others that'll be down there with me as well. And that's all I've got unless you got something for me.
I do not. You have something, Joe? Okay. Thanks.
Thank you.
Actually,
Adam?
I had a question for Joe that I was going to save for my 30 seconds. But Joe, I was wondering if we're going to buy a smaller snow blower for the south side of Broadway.
We're waiting on a price. I've contacted the dealer and they were supposed to give me a price today, but I've not gotten a response back yet.
Awesome. Thank you. I appreciate that.
Adam?
Nothing for me tonight unless you have any questions on anything.
I do not. Anybody else? Patrick? Oh, no, Heath, I'm sorry. Skipped you.
I don't have anything much of questions for me.
I have nothing. You're
Thank
good.
you.
Thank you. Patrick?
I just want to go over quickly the quarterly report I emailed you all for the public. I emailed you all on April 9th, but for the public, there's copies of it in the back next to the agenda if you care to look at it or if you're bored. So the first part is just monthly training over for the quarter. We did a lot the first quarter of 2025. Most significantly, Officer Kwan was released from the department's FTO program. He successfully completed that with flying colors and very quickly. So he is out on solo patrol and doing his thing. Our reserves, which we only have 2, worked 103.1 hours. Our calls for service were down for the first quarter for January, February, and March. And I attribute that to that we had the 2 officers in training and then 1 officer was still out on medical leave, which I'm happy to report he is back as of the 28th, 26th, I don't remember, March. So I would assume our calls for service numbers will go back to our normal, what we had seen last year and then throughout the year last year. And then tickets are at the bottom. We had 14 accident reports taken. We had 19 last year, but this year we didn't have construction on Broadway. So I think that helped attribute to less accidents. So other than that, if anyone has questions, council, public.
I have a question.
Mhm.
You may not know this, but I just thought of it. How does that number compare to prior to when the construction started?
For
The accidents,
2022,
for the accidents, yeah, I guess.
it's about in line.
'Cause I was just wondering if it made it safer with what they did.
You know, I honestly, I can't say I've compared those numbers
It'd be
from my
interesting to know.
2022 annual report to so far. It sounds familiar, but I can go back and check if you'd like. And then look at the numbers
I was just curious,
during
you know.
construction time.
So I'd wonder if if you give less tickets now, because there's less of an opportunity to speed since there's only 1 lane instead of 2.
Mm.
You know what I mean? Instead, because you can't just fly by people like you used
No,
to be
no, no,
able to.
there's people flying by every.
You know, Ryan, it's a good question. I'm
would want-
glad you asked. That's a good question.
I'm sorry, Vanessa, I couldn't hear.
I'm sorry. I was just saying, Ryan, that's a good question. I'm glad he asked because I've wondered the same because people are absolutely flying down Broadway. I think
Right.
my perception is worse than before, but so I'm glad Ryan asked.
Yeah, I will look at those numbers. And then I know every week I put out focused traffic enforcement areas where we tend to get people saying, oh, this person's doing this, or we've had problems with that. Generally, it's on North Madison
East Broadway, East Ohio, 1,000 North coming into town, West Broadway, and then south on Maple and Fortville Pike. So I try to tell them to do directed traffic patrols different times of the day in different areas and when they're not taking their calls. So can't get
I've
them all. but we try.
I've seen more police chasing people down on Garden Street, and I'm pleased about that because people go way too fast on Garden too.
They do. They come off there and they fly. So we have tried to do directed patrols. We're going to continue that through the summer. Traffic will pick up later in the year, especially when kids get out of school. There'll be more kids out and about. So we will put out more directed patrols, but I will compare those numbers for you and see where we were at prior to construction, post-construction. And get that. I won't be at the next meeting, but I will be at the following. So I'll get to you that information the second meeting of May. Anybody else?
Thanks, Patrick. Clerk is not here. Alex, do you have anything for us?
I don't, unless you have questions for me.
I do not. Anyone have questions? Public comment. Anybody got public comment?
Please step up, please. Maybe if you can.
My name's Dave Fisher. I live in Old Ridge. I'm wondering, can you tell me what's going on Garden Street, right behind the liquor store? What's
Parking
going
lot.
on
They're putting a parking lot in there. Putting a parking lot in.
For the liquor store?
And the nail salon.
Okay,
And a driveway for cars to go on and off.
that's what I needed. Thank you.
Uh-huh. Anybody else? Libby, you have anything? I don't. Ryan?
I do not.
I do not. Fritz?
Nope.
Vanessa? Okay. I'm looking for a motion to approve and sign vouchers.
I'll make a motion to approve and sign vouchers.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. And I'll make a motion to adjourn at 7:53.
I second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you all for coming.